Hi everyone, this is Sam here, a current college student at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Welcome to my podcast, College Conscience, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything in between with the college experience. With each episode, I focus on a different topic pertaining to college life with a different friend, and I really want to hear their perspectives and see what advice they have for me and anyone who might listen about that specific topic. Some examples include health and wellness, academics, professional career, exploration, and even more. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please stick around and hear what my friends have to say. Hey, Ari, thanks so much for deciding to be on my podcast. It's really great to have you and really excited about the topic today, which is leadership, specifically for Georgetown clubs. So handing it over to you, do you want to introduce yourself and also the topic?
Yeah. So I'm Ari. I am a junior at Georgetown currently. I'm in the School of Foreign Service. But as for clubs, I'm primarily in Japan Network, or JNet for short, where I am co-president, and I've been in the club since freshman year, but I've been co-president since the spring of 2022, so last year.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think a great place to start is both with Jaina, but also other clubs you're involved in. Could you just talk about the various roles and leadership roles you've had so far, starting from maybe just like one step above general member to being co-president?
Yeah. So for JNet, I've actually started as board member since freshman year. So I was freshman representative, which it exists in a lot of cultural clubs, I feel like.
And what did you do as a fresh rep?
So that was whenever COVID was there. So we were all at home. So mostly for fresh rep, I was in charge of helping build a community within our club. So we had some of like just events just for freshmen. So we would have some game nights, and I think we had a movie night just so we could make sure that like there were people out there because sometimes it's hard during COVID. So that was mainly my work. And then sophomore year, I advanced up to social chair, which mainly consists of keeping track of the family system that our club has. So I know that a lot of other cultural clubs have this too, but it's like a big little system and like a mentorship kind of thing. So I just made sure that like all the families were doing okay, checking in with them. And now I'm co-president. But for other clubs, I'm also in the Hoya, which is like the newspaper club here. And I'm in the blog section primarily. And freshman year, I applied as like a staff. So what I did was I just like wrote articles every once in a while. And then sophomore fall, I became the deputy editor, which is what did I do? I helped edit some of the articles. And then in the spring, I became the senior blog editor, which is mainly editing more articles, but being the one who communicates with the executive editors and copy and just like all the other sections of the club. So it's more of like the bigger role for like a newspaper club. And I'm also in BridgeUSA, which is also Sam's club.
Yeah, what is BridgeUSA?
Good question. BridgeUSA is a multi-partisan club, and we aim to hold like conversations on topics that aren't really like talked about in
a healthy way.
Yeah. So recently we've talked about like the theology and how that applies to Georgetown, which I thought was really interesting because while we are a Catholic institution, we are a very diverse student body. So I really enjoyed hearing a lot of perspectives on what like Catholicism and theology meant to Georgetown students here. So we have like discussions that are prevalent to the student community here, which I really like. And there I am, the director of events. So for Bridge, I just got in as a board member because we are a new club. So there are like very different ways that I joined a club.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
those sound amazing, especially for Bridge. It sounds like you've done amazing work. I'm curious, like, now that you've listed out these leadership roles and as we get more into it, what do you think are the biggest differences with being a leader in a high school organization versus in a college one?
Yeah. So in high school, I wasn't really in a big leadership role. The only one that I was for was an editor for a yearbook my senior year. And I think it was like less of a leadership role, I would say, because there are teachers in charge of a club in my high school. I'm thinking it's the same for other high schools. So even though like you wanted to implement something, you also had to like consult with the teacher, and the teacher sometimes had to get it approved from the school. So it was more of like a hierarchical structure. So like for example, I think for the yearbook, like we wanted to have like senior quotes for our year, but then we like couldn't get it approved because there can be some like inside jokes that can be offensive. But here at Georgetown, I think that if you are a leader of a club, you have more of a say. So if you want to do something with your budget, then you can consult with your advisor, and they will like help you do that if they approve it, which is I think really cool. And students have more of a say. So I feel like I have more power, whether that is good or bad. I definitely have learned more from being a leader for clubs here than in high school.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. And we love a person in power like you. Have to support that. And going off of that, like, I think a lot of people know the term with great power comes great responsibility. And I think at Georgetown, like, as you move up in leaderships, the term responsibilities is kind of thrown around there. But for those listening, especially those younger, can you just concretely define like what that responsibility looks like in leadership? Because I think people knowing the nitty gritty of that would be really helpful.
Yeah. I can talk for JNet because that is where I have like the president role. So currently what I do is I oversee the entire board. So I like lead the weekly board meetings that we have, and there I mostly like assign work for other people, and I make sure that they are doing all the work that they're supposed to do. And then I also like help them if they like do need help. So I have to know all their roles pretty well, which I think is really helpful like for jobs in the future because I can see things in the bigger picture now. And I also communicate with our advisor. So at Georgetown, if you are a club under the Center for Student Engagement, you have an assigned advisor, and I like communicate with her if I need to like spend my budget on something that is like outside of like using a credit card. So like if I need to buy something online or something, then I consult her for help. Or if I just need advice on how an event should go, then I contact her. So she's like just there as like an advisor, just to make sure that like we are like we are getting the events that we want to do, instead of her like leading our whole club. So yeah, I have more power there. And because I have another co-president with me, I don't have like all the power, which I feel like is nice because she can keep me in check. So the other co-president, she primarily like leads the events and like thinking about the events, but I am more on the logistics side, and I make sure that like everyone's doing all their work, and yeah, I like make sure that like all the rooms are booked.
All the books are rooms and the rooms are booked.
Yeah. And like our forms are all submitted on time, and all the graphics are made on time. Just making sure all that work is done.
That's definitely very, very respectable. I'm curious because a club isn't like a class or a job in many ways. So how do you keep yourself accountable and responsible for all the tasks that you do as co-president?
Yeah, I tried to like dedicate time to do work because it is like a second job, because you have to like make sure that you are, or you have to make sure that like everyone else is doing the work. So that means you have to communicate with them like almost every day, which can be a lot. But I also like enjoy the work that I do right now. So I think just like having that motivation is really important. If you don't think that like you are enjoying what you're doing, then I feel like you might feel less connected with the board members and everything. So I think that's really important. And otherwise, like at the board meetings and stuff, I try to do like work after, so I get a lot of the work done for the week after the board meeting. So just a lot of time management skills are needed, and I've learned a lot from that.
Ari definitely has a lot of great insights into how to be a good club leader. Now let's hear about a specific time where she had to draw the line between being a leader and a friend. Awesome. And I'm curious on your thoughts, not just about you now, but one of the, I think, best parts of Georgetown clubs is because like we don't have a direct faculty leader. It's really student-led. You can form boards or leadership structures with a lot of your friends. And if they aren't like close friends, they're at least people you know pretty well. And on one hand, that's like great because you're like spending more time with your friends.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it could be hard when work needs to get done and you're in a senior position to them. So I'm curious, were there any specific instances in JNet or other clubs where you felt like you had to make that line a bit clearer between this person as a friend of yours versus something they needed to get done?
Yeah. So I struggled with this a lot whenever I first became president. So like around like January to February of this year. So like whenever I became president, like everyone was my friend. We were like very close as a club before. So it was really hard to try to like find the line between being a friend and being like a president. So for example, whenever I assign deadlines at the beginning, I use like ambiguous terms like do it as soon as possible, instead of like doing a set date, because they were people that I relied on and I like trusted, and I still do trust them, but I think I trusted them too much in the way that I thought, like I forgot to think that like JNet isn't the number one priority for them. We are all college students and we have very busy lives and schedules. So that is something that like I forgot to think about. So as a result, like whenever we were planning for events, everything became last minute. So like all the graphics, they were made like 2 or 3 days before the event itself, which is not a good sign. And we also had to submit forms to our advisor whenever we wanted to host events, to use our debit card. And that was also a few days late, and you're not supposed to submit it late. So we came into like trouble for that. We were actually like warned that we will be in restoration because we did it a few times. And although like I can blame the other board members' fault for it, I think that it is primarily my fault because I don't think I was strict enough whenever I had to be. So I think that's where I realized that like I can't always be nice and friendly to them, especially if you're in a board position. Like it is like a job at the end of the day, so you do have to act professional sometimes, which is something I learned in a very hard way.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely, I think, a lesson all leaders at Georgetown go through, or like any college campus. It doesn't just have to be us. I'm curious, like, it clearly was a hard but necessary realization with that. And how do you think that realization started to affect how you ran board meetings? And specifically, like, did you see a response from your friends? Like, did they notice that shift where you were just like 100% their friend to friend when you need to be and like leader when you need to be?
Yeah. So after we got that warning from my advisor, I decided to like spend time at the next board meeting to talk about deadlines. So I like set the guidelines or expectations for the future. I said that I will start setting dates, and if you can't do it on time, to please communicate with me, because I also learned that communication is very important. And they also like gave me feedback, and they said that like they would like a deadline that is fair to them. So like for marketing, instead of like giving them like a task or like a job 1 or 2 days before like the due date, they want at least like 3 or 4 days. So being like respectful of their schedules too is something that I learned. So from there, I tried to like set deadlines that were fair to the job that they had to do. What was the rest of the question?
No. I think that was good. Is
Okay.
there anything else where, like, I think I really liked how you gave them the space to give you feedback, and on that vein, like, was there anything else they said that you like really took to heart?
I think like them giving me that feedback was really important, because like I feel like we were like I said before, we were just like friends before like we had that conversation, and then there I feel like we were able to become like both friends and like colleagues in a way, because like we were able to become honest with each other instead of just being nice. And honesty is really important whenever you are doing work for a club, because you want to make sure that like everyone's okay with the job that they do and with the job that I assigned them. So I feel like we were able to become closer in that way.
Awesome. No, I'm really glad to hear that. And now turning it a bit more to reflection, I'm curious what you might say to people who are most likely rising juniors who will rise into like these senior leadership positions. What advice would you have for them on finding that balance between friend and leader, and essentially like giving them your words about what you wish you would have done earlier?
So whenever you like become a role that like requires you to be a higher like in a higher position than your friends, I would say to set like the expectations straight right from the beginning. That is something that I wish I did, because then it would have prevented me from like being in a situation where I had to like where I was given the warning from my advisor. So that is the most important thing that I'd recommend. So like your friends also know, your friends and your board members also know that like you're not just friends, but you are working together for a club. So whether that means like making sure that they do their work like within the deadline, or just being professional at meetings, just like being communicating with them what you want from them, for the club to succeed is like the thing that I recommend the most.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of expectations, I know you talked about like setting numeric deadlines instead of phrases as deadlines. And I'm curious if there are other expectations you might just like throw out as ones that clubs definitely should have, just so people get a better sense of like what expectations might be good for a college club.
Yeah. This is one that like we had to make clear recently, because I guess we weren't very clear before. But we told our board members that like they have to come to like board meetings on time, and also come to our like general body meetings. And if they have to miss for any reason, they should let us know, because like at the board meetings, we really want to be we want to get some work done, because otherwise, like, we only meet once a week, so we need to do something together sometimes to make sure that we can be more efficient. So if they like come like 30 minutes late, or if they just don't come at all without telling us, then that really kind of ruins the point of having a meeting. So we need everyone there. So if they're not there, then like I want them to let me know, or let like the other co-president know a few not hours, like days in advance. That would be like very helpful. And for events too, we just like need people to like help set up and help take pictures. So if they're not there, then we don't really have good, like we can't really set up things in time and clean up in time, because we only have a room reserved for a limited amount of time. And for the pictures, we need that for like marketing in the future. So we want as many people to be there. And it's also good to have a lot of board members at meetings, because then they can get close with the general body members, and it's really good to have that connection to make sure that like the board members can hear from the general body what they want in the future for clubs. I think those are most of the expectations that I set. Also, like during the board meetings, just being active, instead of like working on something else. Like even if you have a paper due, it's only like an hour long, and if they work on something else, and if I have to repeat something to them, then I get frustrated, and also it takes more time to finish a meeting. So it's like counterintuitive to work on something else, and I want to make it more efficient. So just making sure that they're being active listeners.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. Everyone should take notes, especially the younger ones.
Yeah.
And I, on top of agreeing with all of that, I think just as someone who's had similar experiences and like, you know, we work together on the bridge board, I think it's also about understanding everyone's capacities, and like, besides the balance of like leader and friend, there's also a balance between what we want the club to do and the board to do versus what is realistic for us, and just finding that middle ground where we always are striving for more, but recognizing that everyone has their own capacity, and at a point, like if everyone is fundamentally doing their jobs, like that's where you need to remain, and anything above that is if people have the capacity, like if people have the drive, and that's not something any leader can really control or create, but it's something that they should recognize in certain people and try and nourish that as much as they can. I'm curious if you had any thoughts on that mentality.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, like, as president, you should know everyone's capacity to do work. Otherwise, like, if you give them too little or too much work, it's just not going to work out well. If you give them too little work, then they just, like, assume that they won't have that much work in the future. So they just be kind of, like, slacking whenever there is work for them to do. And then if you give them too much work, then that is just assuming that, like, they have time for it. And everyone is busy again. So, like, that is just not going to turn out well. So I think just like knowing people's capacity, you know that by communicating well with your board members. So just like making sure that you are like talking to them, and if they are busy and if they do need help, just like make sure that you're there for them. Yeah,
it's a tricky balance. It's a tricky balance all around. Wow, Ari really handled that situation so well. Now, as she becomes a senior next year, let's see what advice Ari has for the rising juniors who will take new and senior leadership positions. And one more question for you, and let's wrap this up. But we've been talking so much about like the responsibility part, how to deal with conflict as a leader. But now that you're coming on your third year at Georgetown, and you've had various roles, predominantly now being Jana co-president. What do you think has been the best part about being a leader?
There are so many good parts. It's like, I think the best part is seeing an event succeed. It like feels very, very good. So recently we had two like very successful events. One of them was a flower arrangement demonstration that we had. So we like for the beginning of the semester, we kind of struggled with like having members or having people come to our events. So what we did for the flower arrangement demonstration was we had demonstrators come from like an outside organization, and so we wanted to make sure that people came because we have guests. So we did very heavy marketing. So we actually reached out to clubs that might be interested. So we reached out to like Green, which is the environment club here, and also some of the other AAPI clubs. And then we also tried to put up our posters in bathroom stalls because they don't get taken down, and you have nowhere else to look at whenever you're using the bathroom. So like, you have to look at it. And I think what else worked well was just like the structure of the whole event and just planning the event. So I think the spring semester of last year, whenever my co-president and we were transitioning, we like struggled with structuring the event. But now that we got the hang of it, we can like make sure that everything goes smoothly. So like we started marketing like a few weeks in advance so we can make sure that we could get the word out. And we also made sure that like all the budget information, all the budget things were figured out because we needed to pay for like the guest parking and also for like the flowers that they were going to arrange. So I think like planning all of that in advance really worked out well for us because the day of, we didn't really have like any unforeseen circumstances. We knew that like they were going to need a lot of help like setting up for the event, so we were there to help for them. We actually had too many people helping for them, which is a good thing. And at the event, we actually did it during family weekend, so we were able to have some parents too, which was really cool. And the event turned out like more successful than we thought. So that was something that like I was very surprised to see in a very good way. So that is something that like makes me happy to be a president, and also to work with the rest of the board that I have, because it took all of us like our work to do to make the event successful, and it was just not one person. So just like seeing like the amount of people there and also the feedback that we got from them was like, it made me really happy.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing story and an amazing effort by you guys. I think that you have been such a great leader, which is why like I wanted you to talk about this topic. But I think that, I think everyone in the Jana community and like the communities you've helped grow definitely owe you like just a sense of gratitude. Like I definitely have been very, very, very thankful that you contributed so much to Bridge and are still contributing a lot. So I think I can speak for like a lot of people when we say like thank you for all you have done.
Oh, thank you too, because you're also leading a club, so I feel like I should be thanking you for all the clubs that you lead.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, Ari, for being on the podcast. I'm sure that these words will definitely help people, and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much for checking out that episode of College Conscience with my guest. If you want to see or hear more episodes, go visit College Conscience on Spotify, where I'll upload new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Thanks for listening.